everything you learned at school is wrong. I actually don't mean the information that you were given. I mean the framework for life that we were taught at school is incorrect. This comes from my buddy James Friel, by the way. Shout out to James. James and I were sitting at lunch one day and he said this and it was just mind-blowing to me, and I thought, I'm gonna steal that from my YouTube channel. School teaches us that someone, the big giant head or whatever governing body or our boss or whomever, our teacher, comes to us with a problem, and then it's incumbent upon us to solve that problem. And then when we solve the problem, we get graded and patted on the head and a gold star, and we get our degree and we walk away and we're smart and we've done our job. Someone brings problem, someone else, outside entity brings a problem, and then we begin. That's where our story starts, is after the problem has been identified and brought to us. School tends to very neatly package problems, right? They come in textbooks or laminated sheets or delivered in a method that is clearly identifiable and marked as often as not labeled in great big bold letters, problem. This is a problem. So here's a problem, and now you go solve the problem. And our entire productive endeavor is about solving that problem. And then once we've solved the problem, we are graded on our ability to solve the problem in the way that the governing entity deems appropriate. And this is how you build a citizenry that follows instructions and is controllable and containable. It's a system that all of us went through. In some cases, we're put through before we could walk or talk. We are taught that this is how we should be. Here's what's interesting about it is the majority of the profit, of the value to be mined from the world comes from the precursor to that entire framework. It's the people that can actually identify and define the problem. It's not even the problem solving. Isn't that interesting? If you can find and identify the problem, that's where the value provision lies. And what's even more interesting, and to be frank, how I've made my money, you don't even have to solve the problem. You just have to come to people and say, look, I found a problem. And then you find really smart people to help you crack it open and solve it. And yet that's not what they want. And when I say they, I mean the powers that be. And it's not what they want because it keeps you from being predictable and controllable. They want employees and 9-to-5ers and people that follow the process and come to them with a solution to a problem that they've defined. When you define the problem, you own the entire forum. And you see people that have done this and they're astounding. This is Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. These are people that have defined their own problems. They're the ones that define and identify the problem. And it's, it's so interesting to me too, is I see very often those people being made fun of. Bill Burr has this really funny takedown of Steve Jobs, where he's talking about how he's not impressed with Steve Jobs at all, because all Jobs would do is go into the engineering room and scream at a bunch of engineers about what he wants. And Bill Burr's like, that's not impressive at all. I disagree. That actually might be the most impressive entrepreneurial endeavor in existence, right? Like, can you identify and define a problem that other people have yet to define? And that alone, don't even worry about solving the damn problem. That alone ends up being the most important thing that we can do from an entrepreneurial perspective, because life spoon feeds us these little bite-sized problems. And when you're being spoon-fed a bite-sized problem, that's when you know that you're inside of somebody else's hamster wheel. So if you want to step out of the hamster wheel, if you really want to be the master of your own destiny, if you want to control the forum, if you want to influence the world in a meaningful way, you have to think differently than we've been taught to think. Stop solving other people's problems. Start finding your own. Start identifying and defining what you deem to be problematic. And when you train yourself to think that way, you put yourself in a position of allowing for changes in whatever forum you happen to participate in beyond what's generally allowed. These are your true revolutionaries. These are, interestingly, people that most of us don't like being around. These are the people that are constantly asking why. How come that has to be done that way? Can you change the temperature? Can you move the seat? Can we raise this 3 levels? Whatever it ends up being. Like, these are the folks that refuse to accept status quo. And you don't have to take that to the point of being obnoxious at house parties. But I do think that you can begin to train yourself to think, I hate to say outside the box, isn't that obnoxious? But that's kind of what it is, isn't it? Like, we've all been placed inside of this box. It's Pavlov's dogs. It's prompt response. It's, oh, little problem. And they satiate us with those little problems. Just like a dog with treats. It's like, oh, you did it. You solved that little problem. Good job. Here's your paycheck. Go home, watch Netflix, come back tomorrow. I'll have another one for you. If you really want to make an impact, if you really want to provide value, if you really want to make an unbelievable amount of money, define your own problems, solve your own problems. So shout out to James Friel. I appreciate you, buddy. I think that's a fun intellectual exercise. I'd love to know what you think. Hit me in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.